Look at me. I'm looking at you. You're looking at me. Me to you. To you to me. That's so funny. Okay, right. So imagine the music. Welcome to our very first podcast. So, for the first time ever, Gary and I have decided to get together and to launch something a little bit new. Now, we had a bit of a debate. So, before we get started, I'm going to tell you the title of our first podcast because it will set the scene for the rest of the conversation. So, I went down the route of let's call it Singularity. Singularity, because that's when everything kicked off with the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago. And I thought it's a good way to maybe, it's our first podcast, but it's a good way to get things going and at times and occasions be able to go back a little bit and tell a bit of a story on how we move forward. So before we nail this, and I do think we should go ahead with this, Gary, do you agree? Is it a good working title?
Well, no, I thought it was quite funny when you said that because I thought I have no idea what you're talking about. So that's the first thing I was going to ask you. What the hell do you mean by singularity? But then I thought, well, actually, it did take back to, well, we said we might do something like this. And we said, well, what would we call it? And now, yeah, let's call it Procurement Whispers, which I thought was hilarious because like you are like the most unlikely person to whisper. I've never heard you before, ever. But also, if you did whisper, I wouldn't be able to hear you because I'm partially deaf.
Oh, that's true. So there is irony in all of this.
There is irony in us calling it Procurement Whispers.
But you like the title Singularity.
Yeah, right. Because I'm going to learn something from you. You're going to talk to me. You're going to tell me what singularity is.
Oh, gosh. Well, Singularity is the Big Bang. It's when everything kicked off. It's when the whole everything started. Maybe not procurement, but we will get there. But anyway, before we go deep into the world of procurement and maybe discussing how it relates back to singularity, let's do some introductions, Gary, because people don't know who we are. So let's go with you. Gary, who are you?
Oh, wow. Yeah, who am I? That's the question I'm asking myself more and more the older I get. Who am I? What is singularity? That's what I'm asking myself. Duality, where do I come from? So I mean, who am I? I'm deeply embedded in where I was born. It's in my homeland of Devon. Although I left there when I was 7 years old, and unfortunately I don't have any relatives alive anymore in Devon. Although I do have a couple of cousins, so I don't have my direct grandparents are gone, etc. So Devon for me, as I drive down to Cornwall, because Cornwall's my spiritual home. I drive past Devon and I drive past Honiton, which was where I was born, and I'm like, just do a little nod to that's where I come from. So singularity, that's where I actually come from.
That's Devon. Where you started. That's where the Big Bang started for you.
Yeah, exactly. and my family were dairy farming family.
Oh wow.
And yeah, so on my granddad, on my dad's side, and spent a lot of time on the farm as a young kid. Loved it. Was always mucky. Shotguns, etc. Tin cans. Drank cider out of the cider barrel because they used to make their own cider and had their own cider press, which I think explains for a lot as we get older. But we've got loads of these podcasts to go through. So that's my singularity. That's my starting point.
That's where you started. I love that. Well, where did I start? Well, I was born in Barnet. So I was born in Hertfordshire, which is not too far from where you live now, I don't think, Gary. So, well, Hertfordshire's a big county.
Yeah, I always think of Barnet as London, not Hertfordshire.
Well, you say it's a bit like saying if you're from Croydon, you're from London. I think you are, you're not. You're kind of on the borderline. Yeah. But anyway, so yes, Barnet, Borehamwood. But then I moved to just outside Reading when I was 5 years old. My dad was in tech, and at that time the Thames Valley region was the Silicon Valley of the UK. So we ended up there, and whilst I went away to university, I travelled. I've actually ended up back where I grew up, and I'm actually only 100 meters from my primary school, which always makes me chuckle because I think, oh gosh, people go.
And also, you're in tech.
And I'm in tech, yes. Oh, yeah, you're right, actually. So, yeah, I would say full circle, but yeah, never kind of moved away from that. So that's kind of my singularity, where I come from, and where I was born, and kind of where we're based now currently. So now, what do we want to get from this podcast, Gary? We're doing something I think different. What do you think we're going to bring to the world of procurement podcasts?
Well, I mean, we talk a lot, and we talk outside. We have the meeting. We do this is procurement, and this is what we're putting forward. and then we talk and we say, what did that actually mean? Why are we saying that? Why are we doing this? And then it gets a bit real, doesn't it? Because it's like, oh, well, I think this and I think that. And then we thought, well, that's quite interesting, isn't it? And that's quite interesting for us because it helps us work things through so that when we go back into the next meeting, we're like, yes, we're procurement and we're doing this. And, hopefully that kind of helps other people to think, sometimes you just got to work it out as you go along. It's not like following the textbook, because procurement, everyone who's worked in procurement knows that there is no textbook for procurement. Well, there are textbooks for procurement, but you can't follow the textbook. You've got to do a bit of both. Okay. I think I'm hoping that people see, actually, you guys are working out as you go along. But we should work out as we go along, and that's talking it through. I think is what helps me a lot is when we talk things through, and hopefully people will take away that actually listening to other people talk things through might help them talk things through as well.
I 100% agree. And I think our plan is to invite other people who can talk things through and we can learn from as well. Otherwise, I don't think we'll ever run out of topics, to be fair, Gary. I think we could probably keep talking forever. But no, absolutely. And I think for us as well, it's around making it engaging, making it interesting, making it fun. Obviously, talking about procurement, talking about what's happening in the world, what's happening with us. I've been on an incredible journey with building Nova K and then Buying Station and then the learnings I've had with that. And there's some fantastic highs and then some incredible lows. And it's kind of like, how in life do you navigate, different situations, different scenarios, and in the world of procurement with the background of procurement. So I think for me, you're right. It's around conversations. It's around, I think also, this is a very new word for me, a bit of vulnerability, to be able to put out there kind of how you're feeling and being able to express some of that stuff and leaning into that. So I'm looking forward to sharing a lot of that.
Vulnerability, and I'm a big fan of Brené Brown, and Brené Brown is a master on talking about vulnerability and the power of vulnerability. And obviously,
absolutely.
Just doing this,
it's different.
It's vulnerable, isn't it? Because it's like
it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable.
How's my lighting?
Oh no, it's looking all right actually. But I want to say early on in the podcast series, you've got a book. I don't think you can see it, but we're gonna have to talk about this book, Gary, and what made you write this book, and we have to pull elements out of it because I think it's a very useful tool guide, something that to dip into and get some really cool insights from. So I think we can talk a little bit about the way of the resolute. And actually, I know that you're working on something new as well, so that would be exciting.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll write them to pay for it as well. What I think we should do, we should introduce ads. So we should say, what's by? I'm feeling thirsty on this podcast, so perhaps we should have a.
So, and now our sponsors. No, and actually, as we are a procurement podcast, we probably need to talk a little bit about procurement and the world of procurement. And there is so much going on right now. Everything from what's happening in the different membership bodies like SIPs through to what's happening with the AI, obviously, what's happening in the world of recruitment, what's happening in just everyday procurement activities, obviously supply chain, logistics, geopolitical situations, huge economic issues, new prime ministers that are going to change things. So there's a lot going on in this world. But I'm going to throw this one at you because I haven't written down a question to ask, and you don't know what I'm going to ask. But from your perspective, what do you think is the one thing right now that's driving the conversation for procurement? What is the one thing that we need to lean into as professionals in your view?
The thing which has been there for a while is the geopolitical, isn't it? And the Trump impact, and definitely from a supply chain perspective, the Strait of Hormuz is closed, it's open, it's closed, it's open, and it's like, well, should I be buying my SpaceX shares or not? It's that, isn't it? But definitely from a procurement perspective, it's like what's happening on that geopolitical side, and really it's impossible to predict because it can change. Like this morning's news is one thing, there's going to be the deal. Well, that was you might say, well, that was the news the week before and the week before that and the week before that. But then there will be a deal and then there won't be a deal. It's really difficult to deal with. So from a procurement perspective, and I know, SIPs are really honing in on this as well, is that resilience. So how you build resilience into your supply chain when you've got all this geopolitical stuff going on. And sometimes working in procurement, that can feel really negative, because it feels like a really big burden. What I would say is new prime minister, and it doesn't matter where your politics are. From a procurement perspective, I was really pleased to see he's actually recognising procurement within the first couple of weeks of being in, and not procurement as a cost saving, but procurement as a strategic lever. So saying what we want to do is We want to buy British. One of the reasons we want to buy British in the public sector is because of resilience. So he started to talk about resilient supply chains as a procurement factor, rather than just we need to cut costs, so raise tax, cut things down. You're still going to bring in procurement and supply chain into that conversation. So I was really pleased from that perspective.
And the amount of times I heard the word procurement as well from Andy Burnham, I was quite surprised. And I have to say, because I did think COVID would be our moment. COVID would be the moment that procurement is seen by everybody and hugely valued. And I'm not going to, I think we are going to have to do this bingo game, Gary, where there's certain things that we're not allowed to say or that we've got to call out. But I'm going to say it's our first podcast, so why not? To have a
get them all out in one go.
Oh my God, I hate that term. But things really pushing us ahead. So I wasn't surprised, but I was kind of disappointed that COVID didn't highlight the importance. So I think but I think it's because it's a top-down thing. So the fact that our leadership's now saying this, our prime minister's now saying this is something that's incredibly important for our nation, and resilience, and how we need to buy local, we need to support our industries is critical. And I think you're absolutely right. That is going to start, it's already changing the narrative. And I think it's going to change the profession for us and public sector. And we aren't in public sector currently. We do some stuff, but I think it's gonna go across the piece. I think we're going to see it everywhere, and I think that's very exciting. And I think it's really exciting as well for small businesses that want to work in public sector and already do and want to support them. And I know PCR 23 went some way to do that, but I think there's some things that are going to change and help support small businesses now.
What I think though, definitely is the SME element. But I think when you hear procurement spoken about at that highest level, and yes, they can only influence public sector, and the private sector is quite different. But it elevates, doesn't it? It elevates procurement into, so what is procurement? Because how many times do we say, someone says to you, so what do you do? Well, I work in procurement. What does that mean? And then you go, well, it means ESG, resilience, it means this, it means that.
Buying.
What you buy stuff. Well, yeah, that as well. But it kind of elevates it, doesn't it? And I do think from COVID, supply chain got a real big, and through the geopolitical, supply chain became like a phrase which no one had ever heard before, and you were hearing it every day. So people started to understand the supply chain. But I don't think we've had that elevation of procurement, because obviously procurement and supply chain go hand in hand. But it's actually someone using that word, procurement. And I think coming out of COVID, we heard a lot supply chain, the tariffs and the Strait of Hormuz. We hear supply chain, and now we're starting to hear procurement.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. It's going to be. I'm loving the idea of discussing, sharing, and also maybe bringing some experts in some of these spaces as well, so we can hear what their thoughts are on predictions, forecasts, because it's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to be challenging as well. We don't know, the cost of a barrel of oil, it's up and down. It's like the hokey cokey, isn't it? In out, well, up down, but there's so much going on, and the implications of it are so huge. Even just for example, like we're trying to remortgage, and it's going to go, well, when's the right time to do it? Now can we hold on? Exactly. And then obviously businesses are impacted by that as well. And when you think about loans, when you think about taking on debt, it's huge.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point. Like when you get a mortgage, I mean, that says a lot about what your risk appetite is, doesn't it? For when you're going to remortgage, if you have a choice, if you just don't have to just do it when it expires. And I was fortunate enough to remortgage just as the rates went up, so it was my time. But I was like, I'm getting in here quick, because I could see what's happening.
See the writing on the wall.
Yeah, and they're saying you've got to sign in for a 7-year deal, and I was like, over that time, what they're doing is they're gaming that, okay, it's going to go up, it'll come down, but you're paying this rate, so overall you'll pay more. And I was like, so this says about my risk appetite. I was like, yeah, fixed for 7 years at a rate I understand. I'm comfortable with that. And that's
I totally agree. Do you know, I was laughed at. I actually, when we last did our mortgage, I asked for a 10-year mortgage, and even my mortgage broker laughed. So I do think there's something about procurement. I'm being slightly risk adverse. But anyway, Gary, this has been so much fun. I think we'll learn from this, and I think it'll be great to hear other people's thoughts. I know our team's going to feedback, but I'm excited to get going on Procurement Whispers and sharing lots more and taking us and people that listen to us on a journey. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up the first episode?
Yeah, I did want to ask you a question.
Oh, go on then. Are you going to ask me what Singularity is again? Because I think I've told you everything I know about Singularity.
But do you want to ask a question about procurement?
Sure.
So if procurement walks into a pub.
This sounds scary. Go on.
It's a busy pub.
Yeah.
Where do you think they would sit? Do you think they find a table in the corner? Do you think they stand up at the bar and chat to the staff? Or do you think they just find the biggest group and just sort of like start dominating the conversation?
I think for a long time, procurement's gone in and sat at the back of the bar. But you know what, Gary? They should be going to the front and buying the tequila shots.
That's why I asked you that. Because it depends who you are in procurement, doesn't it? Really does. And I know one person in procurement who would be definitely at the bar saying to the group, doing these tequila shots.
Brilliant. Oh, Gary, this is going to be so much fun. Thank you so much. How cool is this? I'm loving it.
Good chatting. Good chatting. Love the background. We'll keep playing.
Thanks.
Bye.